Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of the Challenge Ride or Dies episode number 7. All right, before we talk about what happened in this particular episode, let's just remember what happened last week. We lost, unfortunately, last week. We lost Laurel and Jack. They were eliminated from this season of the Challenge. And though Aneesa and Jordan survived the elimination competition, they weren't happy. They are now likely out for blood with Jay and Michelle as their targets. Yeah, that bridge has been burned between Jay and Michelle trying to do anything with Aneesa and Jordan. They are not happy they got put in the position they did. They're realizing that they were almost destined to go into the elimination arena against Laurel and Jack. So yeah, not happy at all. And with that being said, let's talk about what happened in this particular episode. Now, Jay and Michelle have Aneesa and Jordan coming after them, but that's not all. We have, I think it's Michelle talking about the fact that they are certainly aware that there are a lot of duos coming after them, a lot of people upset what happened. Obviously, Aneesa and Jordan, but also Bananas and Nany are upset with them. Because Bananas and Nany are upset with them, it probably means Casey and Kenny would be there's just a lot of people. They're going to be targeting Jay and Michelle. That's the penalty you pay, I suppose. When you win one of these daily challenge, you have power for a little while, but the long-term impact, a little dangerous. And that's what we're discovering, especially this season, when you have to pick 4 separate duos to not actually go into elimination, be at risk for elimination. That's 8 people that you are alienating and upsetting every single season. Is it worth it? At the end of the season, are we going to look back and say maybe the people who played the best game are the ones who intentionally or not didn't win any of these daily challenges, let other people get a whole lot of blood on their hands? We'll find out as the season progresses. But certainly Jay and Michelle know that they are in trouble. They better be winning some more competitions if they want to survive with as many people who are now targeting them. All right, we've got some other discussions there taking place before we get to the first competition. We've got Devin and Tori having not dissent with each other, but certainly having a discussion about whether they should continue working with Jay and Michelle. They had a little short-term agreement that they were going to work together to protect each other. Tori's thinking that needs to be done, that there's too many people upset with Jay and Michelle. If they continue to have an alliance with them, they're going to be secondary targets as well. And she thinks it's too risky to put themselves into that position. But Devin's thinking just the opposite. He's thinking that Jay and Michelle have proven that they're a strong team, a competitive team. So it would make more sense to continue to work with them for at least a little bit longer. He keeps saying short-term contracts, things like that. Work with them for at least a little bit longer to protect each other, just in case Jay and Michelle do win another daily challenge. So Tori and Devin again don't get put into the elimination arena. I think that makes a certain amount of sense, especially knowing this, that Jay and Michelle have got to be the big targets, right? The kind of people that would be upset with Tori and Devin for working with Jay and Michelle, they're going to go after their primary targets of Jay and Michelle first. So Tori and Devin, there's always a chance you get caught up as collateral damage, but I think Tori and Devin would certainly be secondary targets, and it may make more sense to utilize the protection that Jay and Michelle could win, because obviously they have won a few of these things. It's not like Big Brother. Just because you win one HOH doesn't mean you can't win the next one inside the game of challenge. So yeah, Devin's saying, "Now we got to keep on working with them. Let's make it happen." So we do have that. Now another conversation taking place. This is with Amber. Amber certainly had a bit of a leading role in this particular episode. We saw a lot of talk and conversation from Amber and revolving around Amber. This is one of the first ones. We've got Amber talking about how little she trusts Devin, that he's done her dirty in the past. She knows how he plays the game. She just doesn't trust him at all. A little bit of foreshadowing for the rest of the episode, the rest of the season. We'll find out. We've got another conversation with Nelson. Nelson's talking about how he's just playing underneath the radar. He's trying to build relations throughout the house. That's his primary goal. I think that's the way to do it. Nelson, who had never won a daily challenge, this may not be the season that he won one a little earlier. May not be the season that you want to win any at all. But it seems like he's got the right idea of saying, look, I'm just going to build relationships with everyone, try to make sure that I'm not anyone's primary target. I think that's the way to go. Meanwhile, we've got Bananas talking to Daryl, saying that Jay, warning Daryl, saying, look, Jay and Michelle are trying to pull you and Veronica into their alliance. Just be aware that's what they're trying to do, and be careful about that. But Darrell and Veronica, in fact, I think it's Darrell that's talking about it. He's saying, look, he can say what he wants, but why should I be in such a big hurry to pick sides? Why should I pick Bananas and Nany over Jay and Michelle? If they want to pull me into their alliance, let them. I'll just kind of ride the balance a little bit and make it like that. So he's not worried the way Bananas is. Of course, Banana has some ulterior motives. He doesn't want a lot of people joining the Jay and Michelle train. Darrell's happy to get on board whoever is driving the train that particular week, right? We've got a lot of people in the challenges season that seem like they don't want to call sides just yet, that they just want to not offend anyone and just stay under the radar, play the middle as long as they can. I get it completely. Absolutely do. All right. We do have Aneesa basically calling out Jay, just giving Jay a hard time for putting her and Jordan in elimination, saying, look, you knew when you put Laurel and Jack up there, you knew that the other two duos were going to protect each other. It was going to be us most likely going up against Laurel and Jack. You threw us under the bus, Jay, and yeah, that's exactly what he did. Again, that bridge is burned. You might as well not even pretend like these groups are going to work together. They'll go after each other from this point on. All right. With all that being said, let's talk about the daily challenge that takes place this week. It's called Peaking Blinders. You never know what these things are going to do sometimes based on the title, but Peaking Blinders. This was kind of a cool little challenge. Both partners, every duo, they're all playing just a single round. We're now down to enough that you don't have to do 2 heats or anything else. A single round. Every duo runs down a fairly long path. There's certainly a lot of cardio in this challenge, just like many of these competitions in this show. Run down a path. There's an answer key to a puzzle. But to see this answer key, and we'll talk about the puzzle itself in a second. To see the answer key, one partner has to stand a little block you get on top of, and then you step onto a pole that's, a couple inches across. You have to balance on that pole for as long as you can, because while your weight is pushing down the pole, your partner has to climb a ladder on the other side of this little platform. And from the ladder, they can look into an answer key. Window basically opens up so you can see what the puzzle looks like, only for as long as your partner is standing on the pole, giving you the viewpoint. Once they fall or step off the pole, the window closes, and that's it. So the puzzle itself, just a bunch of colors and shapes. It's a kind of like a tanagram type situation. You've got to have the right shapes, but you also have to have the right colors for a, what do you call it? Some kind of four-sided type puzzle or shape. So you look at the answer key. Once you feel like you know what it is, you have to run back to the actual puzzle itself, put the puzzle together, and see if you can solve it correctly. Not easy, because these shapes, it's not numbers or letters, anything easy to memorize. It's just a bunch of colors and shapes instead. So as I mentioned, it's a single round for everyone at once. We certainly see a lot of people moving at different speeds. Darrell and Veronica are in last. Aneesa and Jordan not leading the pack either, not the speedsters in the group. So we've got some people that, in fact, I can't remember if it's Bananas. Someone says, yeah, some of these people are just walking. They're not even trying to run. It's a long way. Again, it's a lot of cardio, but we've got a couple that they're bringing up the rear, but we've got others that are doing a little bit better as we go through. But it all comes down to that memory, and it all comes down to how quickly you can solve the puzzle, more so than how quickly you can get from point A to point B. And with all that being said, the winners this week of the daily challenge are Nelson and Nuris. Yeah, Nelson just got through saying that he was just trying to make relationships with everyone, maybe playing a little under the radar. Hadn't won anything before in terms of daily challenges. Now he's got 2 of them under his belt for this season. I think he's turning it on maybe when he doesn't necessarily need to be turning it on, but at least he's safe this week. So Nelson and Nuris have won the competition. Who do they go after? Who are their targets this week? Do they go after the rookies? We've still got Horatio and Olivia, who seemed, as much as they are getting picked and focused on early, we haven't seen as much attention paid to them here recently, just because we've seen some other folks getting in trouble. Tommy and Sis, Jay and Michelle, other people are getting the attraction, the attention of everyone else. So Horatio and Olivia have done all right. Is this the week that they're going to get put up by this vet team now that they're in charge? Well, we're going to find out. We do have Jay and Devin both talking to Nelson, trying to get him to go after Bananas and Nany in the draw itself. They're wanting him to go after other vets, not them, but go after other vets, taking out some of the strong players in this season while they've got the chance. Which brings up the point: how have Faisal and Mariah survived and not getting even talked about as being put up on for elimination yet so far? As strong a player as he is, I'm amazed that he's been able to stay out of it as much as he has. So he's doing a good job. But certainly Jay and Devin are saying, hey, now's your time, Nelson. Go after the vets. Make this big move. It's easy to talk a big game when you're not the one making the picks, right? But they're wanting him to go after the other vets. We've got also, they talk about going after Bananas and Nany. They talk about going after Darrell and Veronica, and they talk about going after Aneesa and Jordan. Basically, again, it's one of those, as long as it's not us and it's the other vet, we're all on board with you, Nelson. But Devin also is mentioning the fact that he's just not really trusting Amber and Chauncey either, that he would certainly be fine if Nelson wanted to go after those two. Remember Amber saying that she didn't trust Devin? Well, it goes back the other way as well. Just not a lot of friendly feelings between these two. So with all that being said, Nelson talking to his partner, Norris, making some suggestions about who they maybe should be putting up for interrogation, potential elimination. And the two names that he mentions to her right off the bat, Aneesa and Jordan, Nany and Bananas. Remember Nany and Bananas Jay and Michelle kind of got called out the first week when they didn't put Nany and Bananas up when they had the opportunity. So Nelson's saying, yeah, we probably need to put them up, and also perhaps Aneesa Jordan as well. So who actually gets pulled in for interrogation? The four duos that are going to be at risk on elimination night. Well, Nelson and Norris have put up Nany and Bananas. Not a huge surprise, even though Bananas tried to convince them not to. Nany and Bananas, Aneesa and Jordan, Veronica and Darrell, and Amber and Chauncey. I can't say a single one of those is a huge surprise. All four of those have a lot of people making the suggestions that they should be getting put in. And so those are probably the easiest path. Not so much surprise at who got put in, but maybe a little bit of a surprise at who got left out. Devin and Tori. As much as Devin was talking, Devin's still out of it. Devin is still safe this week. Those four duos, not so much. So Amber has to be chapped. Has to be absolutely peeved that Nelson put her in, because we did see a little bit of a discussion, Amber talking to Nelson, talking about how much she trusted him, how comfortable she felt with him in the house. Well, so much for that, because he's now putting her. Oh, she's furious. I expected she would be, and sure enough, she's basically saying, I don't trust anyone. I'm not trusting anyone at this point in time. Nelson, you did me dirty. We do have a lot of people who are very suspicious about how Tori and Devin managed to avoid getting put into this group of four partners having to go in interrogation. And they're all saying, look, this isn't Nelson's pick. Nelson didn't, and maybe he was the figurehead, but this is all this is all Devin's doing. Devin's working behind the scene. These are Devin's picks, not Nelson's. Now, if I'm Nelson, am I going to argue with that? Maybe I'm going to play along with it. And hey, let them put the target on Devin instead of myself. Let them think that Devin's a mastermind and I'm just the pawn that got used this week. Maybe not a bad strategy to take if I'm Nelson. But they're all accusing Devin of being behind the whole thing. And he kind of was in a large degree. So let's talk about the interrogation of the four duos before we get to the elimination itself. Well, we've got Nelson and Norris telling Darrell and Veronica 100% they are not going into the actual elimination arena. Yeah, they're one of the four, but it was just all posture. It was just for looks and appearances. They're going to be absolutely safe. Veronica is saying that if they draw the safety dagger, that they're going to save Amber, and Nelson and Nurse are saying, yeah, we know, and we expect Amber to save y'all as well. That's why y'all aren't going in. There's never a guarantee, but they're saying you should be good to go. Y'all are going to be safe, so do not worry about it. Nelson is actually promising. It says they're going to do that. We also have Nelson talking to Anissa and Jordan. Lots of promises going on, because when he's talking to Anissa and Jordan, Nelson's saying, look, I promise you are not going to be the pick for me to go in. I'm not picking y'all as the primary target to go in. Once it comes to safety daggers and all that, it is what it is, but y'all are not getting picked by me. I'm not doing that to y'all. So Anissa and Jordan still aren't happy that they're even part of the discussion, but Nelson's trying to smooth things over a little by saying, I'm not picking you. Nelson also is talking to Amber and telling Amber basically the same thing he told Veronica and Darrell, saying, look, Veronica and Darrell are going to save you, and hopefully you and Chauncey will save them if you get the chance as well. And I'm not picking y'all, so y'all should be safe, Amber. Don't get too worked up the fact that I picked you. Well, she's still worked up. She didn't want to be in that position to start with. And Amber has a good point. She says, look, if this is part of strategy, if there's a reason behind it, and you're saying that I should be safe, and hopefully that's the case, she's saying that's all fine. If that's what it is, that's what it is. She's saying, but why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me beforehand? At least give me some warning what was going on, so I had some time to prepare. She said, you didn't tell me anything, and that's what I'm as upset about as anything else. Well, getting put in, I think she's a little upset, but she's saying if you at least had told me, I would have a little bit more faith and trust in you. And I think that's a valid point. But finally, we also have Nelson telling Amber, now this was a mistake, and he actually admits it later. Amber says to ask Chauncey, says, tell them who I always talk about as part of my Final Four. And Chauncey says, oh yeah, Nelson and Nurse, y'all are always part of her Final Four. And I think they probably were. Amber saying, I've always wanted to work with y'all to the very end, so why would you do this to me? And at that point, Nelson comes back and says, well, you actually aren't part of my Final Four, Amber. I mean, I like you, but you're not part of my Final Four. Why would you ever say that? If there was ever a time to lie, that would be it. I don't know why. And eventually, I think it's to his partner, Norris. He tells her, says, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Dang right, you shouldn't have said that. You should have said, yeah, I've always wanted to work with you, Amber. I wouldn't do this if I thought there's a chance you're going home. He could have spun so much. He could have said, by me doing this, no one's going to expect us to be working together. Olivia did this. Remember back with Tommy and Sis, Olivia had said, oh, I think it's Tommy said, this is going to work perfectly. No one's going to think we're working together because of this. And I think Nelson could have spun a little bit more that direction, but he didn't. He just said, yeah, you're not part of my Final Four. I think that's a mistake. We'll see if he pays for it somewhere down the road. But they're trying to smooth things over as much as they are. Now, Bananas comes in for his interrogation, he and Nany, and he's suggesting that, look, we shouldn't be the main vote. We didn't put up Nelson. We didn't put up you and Norris when we won a daily challenge. So why are y'all putting us up now? Why? We're already in here. At least Bananas isn't arguing about why they got put in. It's a done deal. It's over with. He's just saying you shouldn't pick us to go into the elimination arena because we didn't even put you up as one of the 4 duos. Well, y'all did that, but at least you shouldn't be putting us up to go into elimination, right? So Bananas is thinking ahead a little bit. Nany is very upset. Nany carries a grudge. Nany is still very upset that Michelle and Jay, but she's primarily upset Michelle, that they put her in versus her girlfriend Casey last week. So she's already told Michelle, said, yeah, we're done. I'll never forget this. Well, now she's telling Norris and Nelson the same thing, saying, I will never forget that you put us up. You're going to pay for it. I think you got to be a little more chill, a little bit more, whether you actually believe it or not, say water under the bridge. As long as I'm safe, we can continue to talk. But yeah, Nany doesn't have any of that. She's calling him out, saying, yeah, this is the line in the sand. You done crossed it, and I ain't forgetting about it either. All right, with that, going on. We eventually get the group, the entire challenge teams heading on to one of their fake parties at a nightclub, hanging out, doing a little fake dancing and talking and all that. We do see Amber talking about Devin and the fact that she just doesn't trust him. Norris is hearing this, and Norris is saying that she's really starting to get bad vibes about Amber. She doesn't like the way Amber is talking about the other people. She just doesn't feel like she's jiving with her at all, and eventually Nelson kind of just reaches a boiling point, I suppose. Nelson tells Devin about Amber's comments and about how she doesn't trust Devin at all. And Devin, talking about hitting a boiling point, Devin kind of hits his own little bit of a boiling point, a big part of a boiling point. And so Devin comes back and tells Nelson, says, look, Chauncey was making deals with Jordan. They were talking about protecting each other. You think that maybe you're tight with Chauncey or whatever he's at? You got to know that Chauncey and Amber, they're part of Jordan and Aneesa. They're ready to burn you. They've been making their own deals. Don't think that they aren't working together. So with that in mind, Nelson is now asking Chauncey about that conversation. Chauncey's trying to downplay it as best he can, saying, oh, sure, we talked, but I didn't promise him anything. I didn't promise I wouldn't pick him. I didn't promise I'd work with him. We were just trying to make nice, and that's all there is to it. There was a little bit more to it than that, but Chauncey is definitely trying to downplay the entire conversation. And Amber eventually says, look, it's Devin. Now, you've got to realize, Nelson, this is Devin that you're talking about that told you that. And she said, Devin is just trying to spin things to make him look good and to make us all look bad. It's all a bunch of lies. This is just Devin spinning everything. Well, yeah, that's exactly why Devin told Nelson what he told him. And it's working. It certainly does seem to be working. We do have Devin asking Michelle what... Devin comes to Michelle and says, look, what has Amber said about me? Because he's heard that she said she doesn't trust him. So he's wanting Michelle to spill the beans. And Michelle's trying to downplay her own conversation. She said, no, Amber just wanted to know why I didn't put up Devin instead. Why I didn't put you up instead. That's all she was asking. That's about it. And she's really not throwing Amber under the bus. Devin is upset. He's not convinced that she's telling the full truth. She's not. And they really start to fight. I mean, they start not literally fighting. They start arguing. And it seems like such a non-topic. I mean, of course, she's not going to spill everything. But Devin's saying, I don't like when I'm being lied to, when people hide the truth from me. He's getting his hackles raised. Michelle's getting her hackles raised. Next thing you know, they're doing this. Everyone in the house can hear them from upstairs and everything else because they're outside at the time. I don't know why you do it when you're when there's no need for it. The duos have already been picked for this elimination. It just seems like you're creating enemies where you don't need to be creating enemies, but that's what Devin's good at, creating chaos and dissension in the house, right? So now Devin and Michelle are not on the best of terms either. And now Nelson is demanding the truth. He gets Michelle and Devin together and says, all right, we're all together. I want the truth. I want to find out who was saying what about everything. Well, we never really hear anything. Everyone just kind of stays quiet. They're too busy kind of sniping at each other. So Nelson doesn't really get a lot out of that. But again, we're in the part of the season where you're losing. There's not nearly as many times. It's easy when you got some newbies that no one cares about. Now that there's not as many left, and people are having to go after people they've played the game with for multiple seasons on end, now it gets a little bit more sensitive. So everyone's responding as a result. All right, let's talk about the elimination arena. Let's talk about the elimination for the episode itself. We've got Nelson and Norris. We've got the four duos that they put at risk. Now they have to pick the duo that's actually for certain going to be competing for elimination. And that target is Amber and Chauncey. Yeah, in interrogation, they said, oh, you'll be safe. You're good and all of that. And this is all, we don't want you to be the pick. Y'all aren't our targets. Well, that's all out the window. Is it because of the arguments they had? Is it because they just, all of the stuff that happened? Perhaps. I think there's always been a little bit of a They always saw them as a potential target. I mean, again, Nelson straight out said they weren't part of his Final Four. Well, if they aren't part of his Final Four, if they go, they go. So I don't know that it's all the arguing that took place between the interrogation and now that's solely responsible for it. It doesn't matter. Amber and Chauncey are going to be competing for their lives this week. The question is who's going to be competing against them. So the safety drag, the other three duos each draw a dagger. Whoever gets safety, that duo is safe, and they get to pick one of the other two duos to be safe as well. It turns out the safety dagger this week has been drawn by Nany and Bananas. Yeah, I tell you what, they get lucky when they need to be lucky. So Nany and Bananas now have the power to save one of the other two partners, Darrell and Veronica, or Jordan and Aneesa. And they save Jordan and Aneesa. Yeah, I'm kind of cheering for Jordan and Aneesa, so I was happy to see the two of them get saved. They had to compete last week. I didn't want to see them have to compete again. So Jordan and Aneesa are safe. Nany and Bananas are safe. So who does that leave? Well, yeah, that leaves they've saved. Sorry, yeah, that leaves. I check my notes. That leaves Darrell and Veronica. Yeah, Darrell and Veronica going against Amber and Chauncey. One of these duos is going home. So let's talk about the game itself. It's what they call it, a web game of some sort. Basically, a large tower, and one of each duo has to start off at the top, work their way down through a bunch of cobwebs, a bunch of ropes, a bunch of straps that are designed to look a lot like cobwebs. Move down to the very bottom. There's 8 puzzle pieces. They have to grab these puzzle pieces one at a time, then go back up to the top, drop off these puzzle pieces. Once they've got all their puzzle pieces, then they have to solve a puzzle. The first one to solve this puzzle wins. Last team left that doesn't solve the puzzle is going home. So we start off with the competition. Veronica, not necessarily having the best skill set when it comes, not so much getting down the tower. I could get that in the tower, okay, if I was doing the game as well. The issue is once she's gotten to the bottom, getting back up to the top of the tower with these puzzle pieces. Just not necessarily Veronica's strongest competition. And so she gets behind Amber and Chauncey, certainly a little bit, or Amber certainly a little bit further ahead than Veronica is. And not a good sign, but it doesn't really matter because no one can solve the puzzle. There was a part of me thinking, we may see the sunrise before they solve this thing. They just can't get the puzzle to work. Eventually, though, the puzzle is solved, and it is solved by Amber and Chauncey. Yeah, Amber and Chauncey have survived, which from a chaos standpoint and an animicity standpoint, it's going to be fun because Amber's mad at a lot of people, and now Chauncey's going to be mad as well. I always like seeing that. There's one more person that's looking for blood with someone else. In this case, it's going to be Nelson and Nouris. Amber, I'm really looking forward to next week and see how Amber handles what she views as a huge betrayal. It was bad enough that she got put in to start with after she really thought she was tight with Nelson. That was bad enough, but Nelson at least tried to explain it away a little bit, maybe had her a little calm, and then he put her in as a primary pick for elimination. So yeah, things aren't going to go well at this point. I'm telling you, this may be the wrong season for Nelson to be winning some of these challenges, because now there definitely will be a price to be paid. It's going to be so important to see who wins this next challenge and who has control going into the next week, because there's a lot of people targeting a lot of people, not for strategy purposes, but just straight out upset and being a little bit of hatred mixed in as well, which makes the challenge kind of fun, as long as you're watching, not playing. So with all that being said, we did lose Darrell and Veronica. They came in a little bit late. They had said that they were afraid they would be targets just because they hadn't had time to maybe develop the relationships like some of the other people had. Well, it turns out that kind of was the case. They're heading home. It was not their season, but it was nice. I hadn't seen Veronica play a season. I'd seen Darrell, but not Veronica. Hadn't seen one of her seasons, so it was fun watching her play the game. But it came to an end. It's gone. That they are headed out the door, but we still have Amber and Chauncey, which is gonna make it fun next week. With that, guys, we're gonna shut it down. The fun episode. There's so many people upset with so many others, so it's gonna make for a fun last half of the season. Guys, y'all have a great week. I will be back again next week to give you a recap on episode, where are we at? 8, well, whatever's left. The next episode. Until then, guys, have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.